Story title: The Black Monk of Pontefract, Church of St. Bartholomew, England. There's a church in West Yorkshire that most tourists pass without a glance. The stones are old, the air colder than the weather allows, but inside, the past, because behind the altar of the Church of St. Bartholomew, something watches. Most know the story of the infamous 30 East Drive, where an ordinary family was tormented by poltergeist activity so violent it became known as Britain's most haunted house. Furniture hurled through the air, green foam oozing from walls. But few know this. The entity haunting East Drive didn't start there. It started here at the Church of St. Bartholomew. Centuries ago, in the 1500s, a monk was accused of unspeakable crimes. Some say he assaulted children, others whisper of darker ritualistic acts. The church, fearing scandal, did what it often did in those days: swift justice in silence. He was tried, hanged, and buried on holy ground, not out of mercy, but to keep him. But if the church hoped his spirit would rest, they were wrong. Over the next 4 centuries, parishioners whispered of a shadow in the sanctuary, a hooded figure glimpsed in the choir loft, footsteps on stone with no source, and eyes glowing faintly red, glaring through the stained glass during Mass. Locals called him the Black Monk. Some believed he wandered the land, tied to the darkness of his sin. Others believed he never left the church at all, waiting, resentful, and watching as the world moved on without him. Then, in the 1960s, something strange happened. Restoration work began on the church. The floors were lifted, the stones disturbed, and beneath the altar they found bones. Bones matching the age, sex, and execution wounds of a monk hanged centuries earlier. They were reburied quietly, but it wasn't enough. Because that's when the haunting truly began, and not just in the church, but down the street at a modest home on East Drive. The Black Monk followed. Some say digging up his bones loosened the seal. Others claim he never left and simply spread his reach. Whatever the truth, the terror escalated, and all signs pointed back to the same place, the Church of St. Bartholomew. Visitors today report cold winds that circle only them, whispers behind the altar, cameras glitching when aimed at the pulpit, and always that sensation that someone in black robes is standing right behind you. Maybe the church tried to hide its sins beneath stone. Maybe it tried to bury its shame with silence. But the past doesn't stay buried, and some spirits, especially those bound by faith and fury, don't forgive. You disturbed me. He was hanged for crimes against the innocent. Now he walks among the faithful. Story title: The Bell Witch Church Haunting, Tennessee, USA, 1800s. In the deep woods of Tennessee, where the land hums with old blood and buried secrets, there stands a church, whitewashed and quiet. Its steeple juts toward the heavens. But inside, something ancient stirs, something that mocks prayer and chokes the holy. You've heard the name, the Bell Witch, one of America's oldest and most terrifying legends. In the early 1800s, she tormented the Bell family of Adams, Tennessee, scratching, whispering, and cursing them until death itself came to collect. But there's a darker chapter you may not know, one they don't tell on ghost tours. because while the Bell home was her hunting ground, the church they attended became her playground. At first, it was whispers. Parishioners would bow their heads in prayer and hear laughter just behind them. A woman's voice, raspy, cruel, echoing under the choir loft. But no one was there. Then the pews began to shake. Cold winds blew through locked windows. Hymn books flew from the pulpit. Ministers fled mid-sermon. Some claimed their throats closed up as if unseen hands gripped them. Others heard the voice of a woman mocking their sermons, twisting scripture into blasphemy. "You're not welcome here," she would whisper. One pastor later wrote, "She came for me in the middle of the Lord's Prayer and laughed as I choked on his name." It didn't stop. The church, like the bells, was cursed, and that curse has never truly ended. Today, the Bell Witch legend draws thrill seekers and skeptics from around the world. Most visit the cave, but the old church nearby, few dare to enter. Those who do don't stay long. Visitors speak of cold spots, sudden drops in temperature, even in the Tennessee heat. They feel watched, touched. Some say something grabs them just for a second. One woman claimed she heard a voice in the back pew say, "You're mine now." And when she turned, there was no one there. The Bell Witch may have left the Bell family long ago, but she never left this church. Some spirits, it seems, don't just haunt homes, they haunt faith, they haunt belief itself. Story title: The Exorcism of Anneliese Michel, Germany, 1975. You've heard the story, haven't you? A young girl, a courtroom, a priest on trial, and a terrifying question no one could answer. Was she mentally ill or truly possessed? The film The Exorcism of Emily Rose chilled audiences around the world. But what most people don't know is that Emily Rose was real. Her real name was Anneliese Michel, and her story wasn't just horrifying, it was something far darker than Hollywood dared to show. In the quiet German town of Klingenberg, nestled among rolling hills and old stone churches, a young woman named Anneliese Michel began to hear things, not from the outside world, but from deep within her own soul. She was 23, bright, faithful, a student of theology. Her life was just beginning, until something ancient claimed her from the inside out. It started small, black shapes slithering in the corners of her vision, shadows where there should be none. Her body shook with seizures. Her mind spiraled into a terrifying quiet. "You're damned, you belong to us." Doctors diagnosed her with temporal lobe epilepsy and depression. They gave her pills, needles, scans, but nothing touched the thing that haunted her. Because this thing, whatever it was, didn't fear medicine, it laughed at it. Her parents, desperate and afraid, turned to the church, and the church said yes. 2 priests were sent, not to heal her, but to fight for her soul. Over the next 10 months, Anneliese would undergo 67 exorcisms, each session lasting hours, each one pulling her deeper into something no one could understand. They recorded everything. Her screams didn't sound human. Her voice split into 2, sometimes 3, talking over itself. She growled in ancient tongues, Latin, Aramaic, German, all at once. She said her body was no longer her own, that it was home to 6, no more, Lucifer, Cain, Judas, Hitler, Nero. She screamed their names with a voice that could not have come from her throat. She stopped eating. Her weight dropped to 68 pounds, her bones visible beneath her skin. Her knees bled from constant kneeling in prayer, her teeth cracked from clenching in pain. Her nights were not silent. The tapes G-Set prove that. The recordings still exist, and if you listen closely, you'll hear it. That voice, that growl that doesn't belong to any living thing. Mother, I'm afraid. Those were her last words, a whisper, barely audible. After her final exorcism, Anneliese collapsed. She died of starvation and dehydration. They said she chose to suffer for the sins of the world. Her death sparked international outrage. Her parents and the two priests were charged with negligent homicide. The court called it medical failure, religious fanaticism, a tragedy of ignorance. But those who knew her story, who sat in that room, who heard the recordings, they knew better. The tapes still circulate in dark corners of the internet. Her grave has become a site of pilgrimage. Her name immortalized in horror films. But no movie could ever capture what really happened in that house, in her mind, in her soul. Because the truth, the horrifying, quiet truth is this. What happened to Anneliese Michel could happen to anyone who dares to listen too long to the wrong voice in the dark, especially when that voice starts sounding like your own. Like and subscribe for more horrifying stories. Let us know in the comments below what is your favorite horror genre.